We are following breaking news in Riverside, a pursuit on surface streets. Let's go up to Bill Thomas. He's in Air 7 HD. Bill?
Yeah, this is what is described as a parolee at large, according to Riverside police officers. They're chasing this guy through city streets not far from UC Riverside in Riverside. Now he's made that left or westbound turn. We're coming up on the 91, 215, 60 interchange. You can see some smoke coming out of what appears to be the tail. We understand from Riverside police officers, this guy has already hit a couple of spike strips. So most likely what's happening is he's blown out a tire. What happens is in time, all the air deflates from that tire. Then the rubber begins to disintegrate. And then you've got the rims making contact with the concrete. That generates a heck of a lot of heat and friction, smoke, sometimes spark, and that can turn to flames, and that's when the pursuit pretty much comes to an end. We've seen this guy make a couple of twists and turns all over service streets here in Riverside. When he makes those turns, he'll have to make them very slowly, very gingerly, or he will spin out of control, because at this point it looks like he's riding only on at least 3 good tires, at least the far right rear tire, that appears to be gone. That explains all that smoke. And once again, this is described as a parolee at large, not far from UC Riverside, UCR campus on surface streets. Here comes a U-turn. He's going to turn back now and go eastbound back toward the campus. Now, we first heard about this chase about 15 minutes ago, tracked it down here into Riverside. First reported on Pennsylvania, then over to University. He was on Park as well, eastbound on 12th, and he may be someone who's used to this area because he's staying in the same general area near UC Riverside. Bear with us on our shot here. Looks like he made that U-turn real quick and flew under us, so we're going to kind of reposition and get behind him once again. Let's open up that shot. You'll see Riverside police officers right on top of this guy, just behind him. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there may even be more. They're getting closer and closer to that guy. Unfortunately, because he is riding on only 3 tires, that 4th one appears to be blown out due to those spike strips. He can't go too fast, and as soon as he takes a turn, it'll be a little easier for these officers if they opt to implement that pit maneuver where they'll try to spin him out of control. But you can see there's a great deal of activity here, a lot of surface street activity, a lot of folks coming to and from work and or school. A little bit dangerous right now to try to pit that guy. That is a very heavy SUV. From my vantage point, looks to be a Ford Expedition, that is, and if he hits somebody, that's a heavy piece of machinery, and that can cause a world of damage. For our friends here in the Riverside area, you may hear all the police activity, see all the police activity. Best bet, stay right where you're at. You got a front row seat to all the action. We'll break it down for you minute by minute and let you know what happens. Oftentimes, people want to go outside, get involved in these pursuits. In fact, you see some folks right there standing by that fast food restaurant, getting as close as they can to all the action. Nothing could be more dangerous because that SUV is very unstable right now and smoking more and more. He might just decide to pull over and call it a day. Looks like all the windows are tinted, and you can see him putting his hand out the window, and that may be in compliance with commands that police officers are giving him right now. Now he's putting the window right back up. He had that window down, just once again described as a parolee at large, but any further information has to be ascertained from Riverside PD. When they get that, we'll get that. Now you can see, we'll try to find out what street he's on, but a little tricky right now because he's made so many twists and turns. We're closest to the Riverside interchange, not far from the Metrolink tracks on surface streets, and a little east of the 91, south of the 215, so Riverside area and a little west of Moreno Valley. They've got this guy surrounded. Open up the shot right now. You'll see a number of Riverside police officers, and what they've done is blocked off all traffic here at this intersection. They don't want anybody coming toward the suspect, in front of him, behind him, on top or behind him. You got houses here in the area, residential area, police officers outside of their cars with their guns drawn. They want this guy to simply comply and call it a day, but he has no indication that he's going to give up. He had the windows down a moment ago. The vehicle was smoking. He's had to come to a stop. He's hit 2 spike strips, and that's according to Riverside police officers. Look at the guy at the top of your screen there behind that tree. He's got his gun trained on that SUV, and all these officers likewise, a number of guns trained on him. Now he just rolled down the window, so he may be trying to communicate with Riverside police officers. They want him to keep the windows rolled down, turn the engine off if it's not off already, throw those keys out the window, follow their commands, open the door from outside, stand up, walk backward to the sound of their voice, and then they'll bring him down to the ground with his back facing police officers. They don't want any eye contact, and then hopefully they'll be able to take this guy, described as a parolee at large, into custody. For now, though, in Riverside, this has been going on for about 15-20 minutes as best as we can tell. He appears to be communicating with Riverside police officers, but still staying inside that SUV and not coming out, not complying with commands of police officers. We'll watch their every move and see what they come up with next. Back to you.
The fact that he's a parolee, Bill, I would think would indicate that he has some idea of what the police expect of him. He's been to prison at least once, and so he knows what these authorities are telling him, and he knows why. Again, it looks like he's rolled the window back up. Unclear why he's doing that. His behavior seems to be somewhat erratic here. not sure why the vehicle stopped, although we did see smoke. It appeared to be some smoke coming from the front of it as well, from the engine compartment, as well as from that right rear tire. We do see a canine officer there in the lower part of the screen, or now the center of the screen. So they have a dog ready to employ in this situation as well. But the guy's not giving up. Do they know, have you heard anything, Bill, about whether there might be other people in the vehicle with him or whether he is by himself?
Great question. We're thinking the same thing. Look at the vehicle right now. Here comes the window back down again. He's had it up, down, apparently communicating with officers. But around the vehicle, you can see those are heavily tinted. There are different levels of tint. That appears to be a very dark tint, so police officers can't see inside that car. Are there other people inside with that suspect, that parolee at large, a guy described as a parolee at large? Are there people in that vehicle that are being held against their will, or people who are working with this guy? Nobody really knows, and you can't get inside to see, but you can't look inside those tinted windows. The rear windows, here we go. This is in progress now. This guy now opening up his car door, appears to be complying with police officers. Keep your hands up at all times. He's got one of those baggy shirts on, and one of the first things you'll see him do, they'll tell him to turn away from us, don't face us, just listen to our commands, and they'll want him to lift up his shirt to make sure he's not holding any weapons under his shirt or perhaps into his trousers. Keep your hands up into the air, and open up the shot for you just once again to show you how dramatic this is. Look at all these police officers, and they are very heavily fortified. Guns, shotguns, non-lethal rounds as well. Push right back in. We've got beanbag rounds. We've got the police dog standing right there barking up a storm, and that's going to have a psychological effect on that suspect. He's going to get down on the ground in just a bit. Once he does get down on the ground, they'll frisk him, make sure he's clean, make sure he has no guns, knives, any kind of weapons, any contraband, and then they'll take that guy into custody. All while they're doing that, you have a bunch of officers working with this guy, telling him exactly what they want him to do. It doesn't look like he's complying entirely. There he goes, back down to the ground. Don't face us. Things can get real tricky. Officers don't want to have any conflict with this guy.
He's scared of the dog. I think he's probably telling him, keep the dog off me. He keeps gesturing toward the dog. He should be concerned about the dog. A bite from a Belgian Malinois is difficult to deal with. It's very painful.
Yeah, he just wasn't fully complying. Down on the ground, though, they did force him down. He was not complying to the best of his ability. He is in custody. Let's open the car now. We have a number of other police officers looking inside that large SUV with the tinted windows. They're motioning for more police officers to come in. Unclear as to whether or not there's anybody else inside that car. They want to get all the windows down, look in the front seat, the back seat, then the rear compartment as well. And here comes one more individual. I'm not sure if that's someone who's being held against their will or someone who was working with that guy described as a parolee at large. Regardless, she looks like a young lady there, and she is being at least temporarily detained. Handcuffs on. There's a third suspect, another woman, and here's a fourth suspect out of the back seat. So a total of 4 people now in handcuffs, including the driver described as a parolee at large. So make that 3 suspects now, 2 young ladies and the 1 driver who has now been taken into custody. And this is all happening on University. This appears to be University westbound, about a half a mile east of the Riverside Freeway, and all traffic in the area is being held up as we wind up this police activity.
Well, nobody got hurt. That's the good news. It's unclear whether those people were being held against their will or if they were in some way with this individual. I guess that's something that's kind of hard to be dealt with later. I mean, you can't just jump out of a moving car if you're involved in a pursuit, even if you're not in agreement with the guy who's driving. Even whether you're captive or not, there's not much you can do except ride along. But that'll all be sorted out, I guess. But they do have their suspect in custody, and excuse me, no one has been injured.
All right, Bill Thomas, thank you very much for that live report from Air 7 HD over the end of that pursuit in Riverside. Moving on to some other news.